Well, Craig, we'll come to that in a wee bit, hopefully.
That's a wonderful story.
We've obviously got the confirmation about Ryan's move to Bournemouth going through. First of all, what's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction is disappointment that we're losing him, but he seemed anxious to go, and he was advised that his future was elsewhere. And when that became apparent, we resigned ourselves to the fact that we were losing him. Obviously, you wish him all the best as a young player, and in spite of the fact that I would like to have him here, and I think it might even have been better for his development to have been here. He's elected to go there, and there's not anything you can do about it, really.
Do you think it's a good move for him? I mean,
well, it's a club that's in the up and up. I know it's the third tier of English football, but the first division is the third level there. But it's a good level of football, and they're a very ambitious club. So they're trying to sign him to help realise the ambitions that they have, and I believe they're trying to sign another couple of players just now as well. So it's an ambitious move for them. And I don't fault them for wanting. I'd liked Ryan to have said, "I'll stay at Aberdeen," but he didn't. His advice was to go.
Had you resigned yourself to Ryan going, or had you thought there was any chance that he might have had a wee change of heart or stayed?
Well, to be honest, I thought that maybe when he got a good response, and that was part of the reason for giving him a game at Dundee when he came on and against Dundee United, he did get a good response from the fans. And I thought he may see that he's welcome here, and there's no resentment because he didn't sign immediately the contract. And I thought that might influence him, but that wasn't the reason for giving him a game. I picked the team that I thought was best available, and at that point I thought he was best available because, for example, Peter Pollock was still on loan and wasn't eligible to be selected. So I thought that maybe because the fans were so good to him, that he might have had a reconsider the situation, but he didn't. So when you're used to losing players, and you just got to shrug your shoulders. And in my previous jobs I was used to losing them, but usually it was through injury.
So with Ryan now gone, does that open a door for Peter Pollock to come back? He's got one game left for St Johnstone. Is your plan now to bring Peter back for the rest of the season?
Well, I don't want to commit myself to the media in that because it's disrespectful to Peter. His agent is excellent, former player of mine. His father is a very nice chap with whom we discussed the situation when he went on loan. Now, it's totally wrong for me to say we're bringing him back without discussing with Darren Jackson, with his father, with Steve Lomas. I've already spoken to Steve on the phone, and I said that after the game against Morrow on Sunday, we'll have a chat at the start of the week, Monday or Tuesday, about Peter. And it's got to be, I hope anyway, agreed what we do, not imposed. I could easily say you're coming back, and that's it. But I want the decision that we make, I want it to be agreed, and that everyone's comfortable with it.
Will you miss Ryan Fraser?
Well, I think so. I think there was a spark about his play that he was good, and if any good player, particularly a young, attractive player, will be missed. But I've been used over the years to. I missed a guy who came to many years ago to Aberdeen, a guy called Archibald. Missed him. Then I missed another one that came to Aberdeen, McQueen, from my team at Clyde, Tommy McQueen. And I missed Pat Nevin, and I missed Ian Ferguson. In the earlier part of my managerial time, I sold players who were at that time better players than Ryan. At that time they were. I mean, Pat Nevin was the European Youth Player of the Year. Now that is, when Scotland won the European Youth Championship against Czechoslovakia, he was the player of the tournament now in the whole of Europe at that age. Now Ryan wasn't at that level yet. So I lost Pat Nevin, and I know how I felt. And so I'm used to a minor disappointment this is.
Do you think that he'll flourish?
Yes, I do. I think he'll flourish. I'll not be churlish and not wish him other than the very best. And I'm sure he'll flourish. Unfortunately, he's not in the red jersey that we've got here.
Can I ask you what you make of Mark McGee coming on the striker as number 2?
Well, I think in football, your colleague with your team is always, well, it's better to be a friend, you know. And they say football's an old pals act. Well, it is indeed. When Alex Ferguson was the Scotland manager, he took his pals as his coaches to Mexico, and I was delighted I was one of them. So I think the fact that Gordon's taken him indicates that he's a friend in whom he can trust. So he's a loyal friend, and that is as important as anything else. You could have a hotshot, super duper coach. I'm not saying Mark isn't, but you could have. But if you didn't trust him, you wouldn't have him near you. So, I mean, you've got. I think when you're working with a football colleague, you're better to be socially and personally friendly with him. I mean, my friendship with Alex Ferguson took me to Mexico. My friendship with Archie Knox has made me work with him in 3 different jobs, and we're personally friendly, and we can disagree, but we'll always be friends.
And how important do you think is it that he gets this job right?
Who got him?
Mark McGee.
Oh, Mark, well, Mark will be, in terms of the media, will be in the background. He'll have an influence, I would expect, with the manager. But no one will, if Scotland don't do well, no one will say anything about the assistant. The assistant's a great job. You're protected. It's the manager that catches it. And in some countries, you say, who is the assistant? Some clubs, who is the assistant? Because the assistant is anonymous usually. Although most assistants, if they're good, they have an influence and an impact. So it's important for Gordon himself to get the job going well. We have to get out of this pot 5. That's the big problem. That's the immediate short-term target. Then you're talking about qualification. I mean, I'm lucky I got out of the group 3 out of 4, and I keep saying that now. And when I didn't get out of the group, I thought it was a condemnation. I thought I'd killed my next of kin. Now it's just normal not to get out of the group. But at that time, I felt quite embarrassed, although it was a very narrow. I think we failed by a point or something. It was close in the group, and we had not a bad team. But the failure to get out of the group made me feel, I've had enough time here, and I think there is a time limit in international football. But Gordon's at the start, so good. I hope he does well, and good luck, because I'm desperate for Scotland to qualify for the tournament. So will you be in the media. Won't work for you.
I know you've already publicly backed him and said he's the right appointment, but just in terms of what he has to do first, what do you think he has to tackle first? Do you think that there's potentially an attitude maybe that he has to look at amongst the players? Do you think he'll whip them into shape?
Well, I don't see honestly, I don't see a fault in their attitude in recent games. They've made mistakes, but I also genuinely believe they're unlucky, particularly against Wales. But what he's got to do is get some results to ensure that we don't slip, and we're in a difficult qualification group for the next campaign. And the difference in the ranking is very, very important. When you go to a draw and you're in the top 5 and there are 4 teams better than you in the FIFA ranking, you've got a major job to qualify. Now, one place, top 4 is a help, because there's only 3 of them better, and you have to get into the top 2 usually to get to qualification. But it should be easier for Gordon than it was for the other managers, because there are now 24 teams qualifying. So, by the same token, it's a bigger criticism if you don't. Because it was harder when there's only 16 teams, and that made it very difficult to qualify. But now, there are 53 countries competing in Europe. I know all that because I was in the job. And 24 of them are, so nearly half. Now, we would love to, surely, to think that Scotland are at least in the top half of European countries. Maybe not in population, but in tradition and in football respect, we should be, I think, in the top half.
And what do you make of the news about Dan Fletcher going to have the rest of the
Very,
season?
very disappointed. The lad is outstanding. He's an outstanding person as well as an outstanding player. You saw the response to him up here, even warming up at half time. He told me, he said, I'm really moved. He said he was embarrassed when he ran to one stand, the Richard Donald stand, to collect the ball when he was warming up at half time. He said, they all applauded. And I thought, this is a man. And I turned around to the south stand there, and they all applauded as well. The guy was, when he was at Aberdeen playing in the testimonial for Neil, the guy was genuinely moved at the Scottish response he got here. But he's a thoroughly decent, courteous young man, and a wonderful example for Scotland to have as a captain. Unfortunately, that won't be for a wee while yet.
Looking at domestic matters, Craig, how much are you looking forward to second half of the SPL season?
Looking forward to it. Aye, we're over halfway, but it's a turnaround in the new year, and we're unbeaten this year. We've had one draw. How long may that continue? But it's with real anticipation, keen anticipation, that I'm looking forward to this new season. I see an improvement in the injury front, and that's encouraging. We can really rule out for the rest of the season Andy Considine, regrettably, and Chris Clark, regrettably. But Ryan Jack, we hope, will be back before the end of the season, and we do hope that Gary Naismith as well. So we've got 4 players hurt at the moment. Now that's a big improvement from the 8 and 9 that we had a month ago. So back into contention now come Rob Milsom, Stephen Hughes, Isaac Osborne there, and obviously we had an injury for a while to Clark Robertson. He got playing with the Scottish team with an injury to Niall McGinn. They're clear of injury now. Gavin Lee missed a couple of games. It's the best time so far this season, apart from right at the beginning, we never had it very well. So, the manager's optimistic.
How important is it to kick-start that second part of the season with a win at a very tough venue?
Yeah, well, obviously, every game is of considerable importance, and this one particularly so because it's, in inverted commas, a local derby, and the Inverness are doing so well. So, quite clearly, it would be a feather in our cap to go there and get a good result and beat Inverness. But I don't minimise the task. It will be very, very difficult. But we're doing well away from home. We've been there, we were unfairly dealt with the last time there. I think honourably the SFA admitted that, but we to play without our captain for the second half, we were a goal down that should never have been awarded, a wrong decision, they admitted when the appeal was upheld. So we should never have been a goal down at half time. We should never have had to play the second half a man short, but we did and managed to get a draw. And Cammy Smith did very well when he headed the equaliser. So under, I think, extremely difficult circumstances, we managed to get a draw there. So hopefully we won't have the same extreme circumstances this time, and we'll get something.
A win would help you build up a real head of steam, wouldn't it, for that next part of the season, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a very important part of the season coming up, both in the league and in the cup, and we don't minimise that. It'd be great to get off to a good start. And there's a great feeling about the place at the moment. There's a good atmosphere. We see ourselves in touching distance, and that was my desire, with all the injuries, keep in contention. Now, we are in contention, and we can only go out of contention if we fail to measure up. But hopefully we will perform well.
Inverness are always a difficult proposition, but do you expect the players to have an extra spring in their step following the good result and that the manager is staying where he is?
Yeah, well, I think so. I don't think it would make a lot of difference. But I'm sure they're delighted that he's staying. I'm delighted because I love playing against Terry, and I love him as an individual, a nice person. He's a football guy, and when he was assistant manager of Scotland, I helped him with scouting missions and things like that that he asked me to do. And so I'm personally friendly with Terry. Always good relations with him. And he is a bit flamboyant. That's euphemism for heat casings at the side of the pitch. But the fans love that, and the players like that, and that's his style of management. And in this season, it's been hugely effective. So good luck to Inverness, but not when we play them.
Thank you very much. Cheers.